So a while back, I think like a week or two ago, I did this video with Stephen Hassan, which, as a lot of you guys know, he's one of my personal heroes. I love the dude. He's awesome. Uh, I was really, truly, deeply honored to have him on my YouTube channel. He came on my channel and wanted to talk about Donald Trump. So I said yes, of course. You know, if Stephen Hassan wants to come on my YouTube channel to talk about occults, I'm going to say yes. Bottom line, I don't care. I mean, I will critically examine it after, and if I disagree with something that he said, then I will put it in there for sure. I'm not going to blindly close my mind off and accept anything the guy says, but I'm going to discuss it with him. Bottom line, I'm going to discuss it. I'd be foolish to say no. I'm not going to discuss this with you. I'm going to hear him out because the guy has credibility in my eyes and a lot of other people's eyes. So he contacts me. He asks if I want to have him on my channel to talk about Donald Trump, right? Of course, I say yes. So I bring him on, and we are talking about his book, The Cult of Trump. And honestly, I thought the interview went really well at the time. Now, I don't usually watch my videos through after they're done. I just, I do the editing, I do the drawings and everything else, and I push the video out, I upload it, and I'm done. I'm never going to watch that thing again because there's something like that bothers me about listening to my own voice, So that's basically what I did with this video. I pushed it out and I didn't plan on watching it again. But I got a lot of negative feedback on the video, so I decided to watch the video through one more time to see if, maybe he said something that I disagree with. Maybe I said something without thinking that's legitimately, I should address. Maybe I was wrong about something, and maybe he was wrong about something. So I decided to give the video another listen and really think about it as objectively as I can. Like, do I agree with everything that I said and everything that he said in the video? And if I didn't, if I disagreed with something that was said in there, I intended to go back, make an update, and talk about my feelings more in depth on the video. So I give it a listen through, and it legit just sounded regular, like we were talking about cults all the way through. We didn't even really touch on Trump, really, until near the end of the video. We were talking a lot about dominionism and the family, which is the cult that Mike Pence is a part of, and things like that. We were just talking about cults. I really honestly didn't see what was controversial about it at all. And then I asked Hassan about the BITE model. I asked him to explain it, and then I asked which points on the BITE model Trump meets. So his whole bit with Trump as a cult leader is that there are full-fledged cults that are forming underneath Trump, kind of following him, even worshiping him. I mean, legitimately. This isn't like an exaggeration. This is like these people actually exist. And there are a lot of extremist Christian groups that follow him as a leader. Whether Trump is intelligent or not is completely irrelevant. The things that he's doing, the things that he says, are the things that cult leaders say and do. He's fostering the mindset that the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses or the prophets of Mormonism do. It's the same exact thing. And there shouldn't be anything wrong about acknowledging and examining that, honestly. So anyway, the point here is I wanted to look at some of the comments on my Trump video. I thought it would be really interesting. So let's just see what some of them have to say. What about cult of Hillary and Obama? No comments. Laughy, laughy, laughy. Here's my response to that. There's something called the Tukokwi logical fallacy. Here's the logical fallacy defined. It's also known as the U2 fallacy, hypocrisy, personal inconsistency. Claiming the argument is flawed by pointing out that the one making the argument is not acting consistently with the claims of the argument. So here's the logical form. Person 1 is claiming that Y is true, but person 1 is acting as if Y is not true. Therefore, Y must not be true. You should not be eating that. It has been scientifically proven that eating fat burgers are no good for your health. You eat fat burgers all the time, so that can't be true. That's the whole idea behind it. That's the idea behind the logical fallacy that this person is using. What about the cult of Hillary and Obama? No comments. That's completely irrelevant. I'm not saying anything about Hillary and Obama. We're not even talking about that. Fine. We'll say, just for argument's sake, sure, they're cult leaders, whatever. Just for argument's sake. That does not change what was said about Donald Trump. Next comment here. Not a Trump supporter, but when the professor spoke, you notice all political parties are cult-like. No, we're not talking about political parties. This whole video is not about political parties. We're not talking about conservatives. We're not talking about liberals. We're talking about Donald Trump. That's completely different. The next one says, so, did you join Atheism Plus already? Give me a break! I don't know anything about Atheism Plus, honestly. I understand that it was a really toxic thing, and it's really not something you want to be a part of at all. But just for not liking Trump, they're categorizing me into a group, an extremist group. Ask Berlin walls don't work. Okay. I'm not really sure what that means. Berlin Wall doesn't work. Whatever. Isn't dominionism basically a Christian theocracy movement? Then it's not like Wahhabism. It's just like mainstream Islam. See, no. This is one of the big issues here, too. The fact that people are generalizing way, way, way too much. Islam itself is too broad of a term to call a cult or call extreme. It's like saying Christianity is extreme or a cult. It's too broad. You need to narrow down, get down to specific groups. Not every single Muslim in the world is extreme. Not every one of them. There are some Muslims out there who are pretty chill, who are relaxed, don't hate anybody for anything, don't even wear hijabs. Some of them don't even wear hijabs. They shave their beards. They live their lives. If those people exist in a reasonably high volume, it's not a cult. You need to narrow it down and find the cult in Islam. Wahhabism is extreme. It's more of a movement, so I don't know that I'd call that a cult either, but you know, it's got cult-like tendencies, and it could very easily be a cult. Anything that branches off of Wahhabism is probably a cult. ISIS, most definitely a cult, a Muslim cult. They are out there, but calling Islam a cult is just too broad. Doesn't make any sense. Wow, that was definitely one of my favorite videos of yours, Owen. You guys touched on so many interesting topics, not just Trump. Stephen Hassan has instantly become one of my heroes. He's been one of my heroes for a long time, so glad you liked that. This video is awesome, terrifying but awesome. Great interview. If Trump supporters are a cult, at least they are a unified one. The left is a cult that is eating itself. At least they're a unified cult. Is it preferable to be unified? The left is extremely broad also. It's like saying Christianity or Islam. The left is not specific in any way. And I feel like it's absurd to say the left is a cult that is eating itself. Like, there is nothing logical or consistent about that claim in any way, shape, or form. The left is a cult. That really bothers me. If Trump supporters are a cult, at least they're a unified one. That's not a point in their favor. That's a point against them, FYI. Being heavily unified across an entire group of people just speaks to how cult-like it is. The whole unification thing is really, really cult-like and not good. So I'm not sure what they were getting at, but they didn't really support their point in the end. Like I said, there are left-wing political cults. They do exist. But the left is not a cult. There are Islamic cults. Islam is not a cult. There are Christian cults. Christianity is not a cult. You don't understand how this works if that's how you feel. You don't understand what a cult is, or how it operates, or how they keep people subjugated. If you believe that, if you actually believe that, you have no understanding of how this works, or even what I'm fighting for. Why are you on my channel commenting here if you have no clue what I'm even talking about? It's like everything that I've said for the past 3 years just went right over your head. Conservative atheists are the biggest idiots, almost as big of idiots as fiscal conservatives who think rich people need more tax breaks. Eat the rich. I don't usually like calling people idiots because I feel like it's not productive. It doesn't help the conversation. It just shuts people down. It raises that guard. Conversation is over the moment somebody gets called an idiot. They're done talking. They're not going to listen to anything else you have to say. You completely lose credibility in their eyes. So, generally, I discourage people calling others idiots. I don't think any conservatives are idiots, really. Not by default, not inherently. I disagree with their political beliefs, but they're not idiots. I mean, they're not for that. Who knows why they believe what they believe? I'm sure that they have a good reason in their minds for believing it, just like I have a good reason for believing what I believe in my mind. I mean, my brother is conservative. He's a libertarian, right-wing, leans heavily right-wing, and he's not an idiot at all. So anyway, I just hesitate to call anybody idiots. Nonsense, you flaming imbeciles. Well, that's a good criticism, right? Glad he addressed all of the points that I laid out in the past 28 minutes in this video. Just call me an imbecile. I'm so happy for you, Owen. You must be so psyched. I imagine Mr. Hassan must be like a mentor to you. Yes. Let's see. If Jesus came back, he'll still have long hair, and he'll had tattoos, piercings, and riding a steel horse so loud that it can be heard in hell. Not sure what that means, but alrighty. Let's see. Closest thing to a cult is the socialist communist movement taking place with Bernie Sanders, Hillary, and Obama as the leadership. Are you kidding me? The socialist communist movement taking place with Bernie, Hillary, and Obama as leadership. I honestly am not even sure how to respond to that. Hence the reason why I didn't respond at all. That is absurd. First of all, none of those three people are socialist. I'm not socialist either. One of the defining factors of socialism, as far as I know, is the government controls the means of production and supply. So, as far as I understand it, with socialism, the government owns the factories and they provide the things that the factories produce to the people. I do not believe in that. Bernie Sanders doesn't. Hillary and Obama don't. That's not anytime that's been implemented throughout history, it has led to a failed state. Maybe there's some way to do that without leading to a failed state, but I'm a little skeptical, so I'm going to say no on that. I am not socialist in any sense of the term. I believe in a social democracy, and I like some programs, some socialist programs that the government has. Like, for example, I like Social Security. I think it's really good. I like Medicare. I think that's solid. We should be doing things like that more. So, yeah, Bernie, Hillary, and Obama are not socialist, and they're not communist. None of them are either of those two things. And there could be an argument for saying that communist movements in the past have been cults. I could get on board with that. But communism is not a cult by definition. So, Of course, if Trump had no adults supporting his crimes and lies, his puppet leadership would fall as quickly as normal, lawful times. Interesting. For God's sake, stop calling everything you don't like a cult. And what happened to not covering politics? I'm not covering politics. This is not about politics at all. This is about Donald Trump. And it's about how Donald Trump is linked to cults, to Christian cults, and how he encourages a lot of the same behaviors that cult leaders encourage. Has nothing to do with politics. Nothing to do with conservatives or liberals or any of that. We're talking about cults and one person. That person and that person's personality, how they act. It doesn't matter what position that person is in. It's completely irrelevant. We're talking about how he acts. It's not politics. It's Donald Trump. So, anyways, that's what I've been dealing with. I think YouTube was suggesting it to, like, the wrong people for a while. It's interesting because I put out a video fairly recently, pretty much unconnected to any of this stuff. And I got a lot of adversarial comments on it, like a lot of angry, I think it was a Jehovah's Witness video. I got a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses commenting on it. And it actually lost me subscribers, the video did. Now, bear in mind, this is the same, content I've been putting out for 3 years. Nothing different about it. But YouTube was suggesting it to, like, Jehovah's Witnesses and people who are sympathetic to Jehovah's Witnesses. For like the first 2 or 3 days. And I actually was in negative subscribers for that video. I was gaining net 70 subscribers per day, which is low. It's on the low side for a channel my size. For a channel my size, I like to see over 100 or 150 new subscribers per day. But I was gaining 70 when this video released. And 2 or 3 days later, it was just really sudden. The views maintained the same trajectory, roughly. Like, the views didn't go up or down. They just kind of stayed the same. They stayed on the same upward path as they were before. But all of a sudden, all of the comments on that video were really positive. And they were really, like, encouraging and, like, so glad you're doing this, and this needs to be said, and all this other stuff. And I started gaining 150 200, 250 subscribers a day. So it's like YouTube knows that there's this group of people who watch content that's similar to this, and they were suggesting it to them. But they were suggesting it to people on the wrong side of the argument. They were suggesting it to people, to Jehovah's Witnesses, basically. And they were hate watching it and leaving comments and disliking it. And then YouTube corrected it, like self-corrected itself, and started sending it out to people on the other side of the argument. People who were like exiting Jehovah's Witnesses, for example. That's the kind of thing that happens. Like, YouTube does that kind of thing. It's a very, very complex system, and people don't realize, like, even I don't realize what goes into this. Like, what goes into YouTube's system of suggestions and stuff. It's very, very complex. But that's exactly what happened with the Trump video, too, with the Hassan video. I released it. I got nothing but hate comments from Trump supporters for like the first 2 days. Still staying on the same trajectory view-wise, roughly. It lost me like 400 subscribers or something like that, total. And all of a sudden after that, almost all of the comments after a couple of days were positive and encouraging. And I started gaining subscribers again. So, I don't know. I just think it's fascinating how it works. It's really, really fascinating stuff. If you like what I do and you want to make sure I can continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, you can support me on Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. I'm trying to make a shirt design for every cult I've covered. I haven't gotten every one, but I'm working on it. So check it out and see if your cult is up there. Second, you can support me by checking out my game shop. I sell controller, cartridge, and game box stands for every system from the original Nintendo and Sega Game Gear to the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. So give that a look too. And finally, if you want to support me in some way other than monetarily, you can check out my other YouTube channels. I have a retro game channel where I answer questions like, why does Shy Guy have a mask? And why are CRT TVs the best way to play retro games? I also have the podcast where I talk about stuff I don't feel I can say on a monetized channel. And finally, I have my main channel where I talk about cults. I wish I didn't have to worry about dancing around subjects carefully in the first place, but I chose to do this as a full-time job, so unfortunately, I rely on YouTube's AdSense and on the support of patrons to continue doing the work I do. Anyways, check me out in all those places if you haven't already. Thanks for listening, guys.